Welcome to all of you guys. If you don't know me, Kurt Heggetweiler, the founder of Builders Coach. Been doing this for a long time now, man. Born in New Zealand, originally grew up in South Africa. My dad's from Switzerland, and I spent a couple of years there, my formative years, and also a year in high school. So I like to consider myself someone with, that Swiss precision, a bit of South African mongrel, and then a sprinkle of New Zealand nice guy and a bit of Australian never say die all woven in. So you should see a bit of that come out as we go through this presentation. But I want to talk about my theme. That's what you're seeing on the screen now is my theme for 2023, escape velocity, right? And it was born out of us coming out of all the BS that we've just, we've got in the rear view mirror. Can you mute yourself there, Sam? Oh, actually, wait, I'll mute you just so.
Sure.
Awesome. No, all good. So it's born out of us coming out of all this BS, all of what you guys have had to handle with, the price and supply issues and just the tumultuous times with the pandemic and everything else. So we're sort of coming out of this molasses that we've been moving through, and most people are a little stunned. I've noticed it myself. Most people have the stuffing knocked out of them. Obviously, there's people that went through, devastating times. I don't want to make light of that, but most people are just sitting there very uncertain, very scared to have a crack and set some ambitious goals. So therein lies the opportunity and why I've got this this theme of escape velocity, because we've got a bit of a clear run in front of us now. Yes, all hell might break loose 6 months from now. Who really knows if there's going to be another pandemic or World War III? But for now, it's pretty open, and you want to take advantage of that and double down on your business development and marketing efforts. I'm going to tell you now, guys, mark my words, 12 months from now, so if you fast forward through to this time next year, look around you 12 months from now and see if anyone has surged ahead of the pack, because the opportunity now is to do exactly that. It's to break free from the herd, a bit like in sport where runners or cyclists, they surge, they break from the peloton. This is your opportunity to do that, mainly because most people are still sort of stuck in that mud in their head, even though it's not there. So you really want to take advantage. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can optimize those three legs of your business, if you like, or the three Achilles heels, your profit, workflow, cash flow. And I want to start with the profit side of things. This is so important, guys. Most of you, sadly, are making way too little money, if not no money at all. Like if you look at your profit and loss, and I always do that on day one with any builder I start working with, and the profit will say 150 grand or 200 grand, and then I'll go to the overheads and I'll say, where's your wages? Or even in the cost of sales, if you're doing supervision as the builder, where are the wages that you draw from the business? And they're not there. Okay, if you've got a bookkeeper or accountant who has set your numbers up that way, you need to fire them today, immediately. Get rid of them, okay? Because they are going to send you to an early grave. And that happens a lot. Like you guys know the stats in business, 80% of businesses don't make it through the first 5 years. The 20 that make it through don't make it through the second 5. In construction, it's 3 years, right? I just heard this morning in the US, 75% of new builders don't make it through the first 12 months, all right? So it's out of control. So I need you guys, like if you're not listening, you need to wake up, you need to listen to me right now, okay? Because if you look into those numbers, which are true, those are real stats, then that means 80% of you guys listening to this live or the recording are going to fall in that category. So you need to understand that if your margins are too low, you're going to be going out the back door, okay? So I want to talk about the margins and the numbers first, and then we're going to talk about how you can get your margins there. Because when I share these numbers with you, most of you are going to fall off your chair or you're not going to believe me, okay? And hopefully you've got at least accurate enough bookkeeping so that when I give you these margins that you should be quoting with, the profit margins, you'll be able to at least compare accurately with what you've got. But if you haven't, then you've obviously got a bookkeeping problem, right? But if you have, and you'll no doubt, most of you, your margins are going to be way too low, you're going to realize you've got a marketing problem. And that's why we're going to dive into exactly what you can do from a marketing perspective to get those margins up. But I can tell you now, just long conversation short, your margin should be 25% minimum, a minimum of 25%. So if you've got $1 million job, your gross profit, now this is, guys, forgetting about overheads. Most of you probably try and cost overheads into your job. Don't do it, all right? It doesn't work. You'll never, ever be able to accurately cost in overheads on a job. Why? Because the only way you'll ever get it accurate is if your turnover and your number of jobs stays the same, and that's never going to happen, all right? So what we do is you take your overheads out, and we just aim for a gross profit margin, and that should be 25%. Now, there's a difference between markup and margin. I'm not going to go into all the specifics of that. When you're pricing your work, you should have a certain markup that you use. You mark up from the costings percentage, a certain percentage to achieve a certain margin. So that markup to achieve the 25 margin is 33% minimum. Okay, now some of you have already fallen off your chairs. You're going, yeah, but how can I do that, right? If you don't do that, you're not going to be here 5 years from now. I can tell you that right now. All right, so you'll know that you're in financial trouble if you are signing a job and then using that deposit to pay for expenses on a previous job. Okay, you'll know that when you don't have money to pay wages, when you look at your profit and loss and it says you made money, but there's no money in your bank account. All right, so if that's you, then you need to be paying particular attention, okay, because this is going to potentially change your business future and also your life with that as well. Because I can tell you right now, if you go into financial difficulty and then that impacts your relationship, you guys that are listening to me now, for a lot of guys, that's too much to handle, right? It's a heavy burden. So it doesn't have to be that hard. This is an easy fix. You just got to literally grow the balls to put the right margin on, and then just be intelligent enough to differentiate yourself and to add value with your business so that people accept that margin that you're putting forward. So again, we'll look at that now. But that 25 margin, by the way, is the average margin in the US at the moment for remodelers, for guys that do renovations and custom homes, okay? The margin that you should ideally be putting on is closer to 40%, okay? Which is upward of a 50% markup, a 62% markup to achieve that sort of margin, all right? So if these numbers are blowing your mind, good. It's just telling you how low they are. I know for a fact, most of you guys are probably marking up 20%. Okay, that's what I hear most often when I speak to builders on day one, and I ask the question, you know, what percentage are you putting on? It's 20%, and 20% markup is a 16% margin, and it's way too low. Okay, so 25 margin, guys, and this is regardless of the size jobs you do, because some of you think the bigger the job, the lower the margin. That's BS. The margin needs to stay the same. That's the number one reason why a lot of those bigger guys are crashing. Like in Australia, 2,000 insolvencies last financial year, 2 a day going under. This calendar year, it's already 1,700, all right? And the number one reason, there are other reasons, of course, but the number one reason is margin. So I just want to set that at the outcome, that number clear in your minds at the outset of this conversation. So no doubt you're asking, well, how am I going to achieve a 25 margin? Maybe, hopefully there's some of you that are already doing that, and you should just be cranking it up further. But if you're wondering how you're going to do that and still win jobs, if that's your concern, that's what we're going to be talking about next. Okay, so marketing is the thing that's going to do that. And if you've ever compromised your values, guys, like if you ever had someone in front of you and you've gone, oh, I don't really want to work with them, I'm seeing some red flags here, but you did it anyway, so you compromised on your values because you needed the money, all right? Or you took on a job and you dropped your price, all right? You thought, hey, I know what I'll do. I'm scared that I'm not going to get this job and I'm desperate because I've got nothing else on, so I'll just lower my margin to make sure I win it. So you've been competing on price, and then you saw your ass on that job, then you need to listen to this, all right? This is the thing that's going to help make sure that you actually start making some real money, all right? And this is also why marketing is the holy grail for your business, because it gives you total control of your business. And Sam, you mentioned that before. You've got control of the design process and that front end part of your business when you use his system. But marketing really gives you control and certainty is what I sell. That's what I do as a business coach for builders, is I give you certainty, and then that gives you confidence as well as a leader, which is really an important thing to have as a leader, is to be confident and have that certainty. Marketing also allows you to create your own economy. So you can forget all the BS that you like you hear in the media and even the associations when they're giving you that macroeconomic blah, blah. You don't need that if you've got strong marketing. You could have 100 people wanting to build with you. You can only afford to build with 10 based on your resources, and you just pick the best 10, stagger them perfectly, and crank the margin, okay? And this is not, guys, about you profiteering. It's not about you making a shit ton of money and profiteering off people. You deserve to make good money. You're taking on a lot of liability. You're taking on a lot of risk. You're working your ass off every day. So you deserve to at least make money. And also, very importantly, if you're doing this and you're doing it well, you're adding a lot of value, which is the first principle of wealth creation, right? You add value, and the more value you add, the more money you make. So there's no shame in making money. If you've got any issues around that, and mindset, by the way, as you probably know, is 70% of success. If you've got issues around money and you're concerned about making money and a profit, then your money mindset needs to change. And that's a whole different conversation, different webinar. But I know there's also a marketing mindset as well that you need to have to ensure that your marketing is at an optimum. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. So just flagging a few things for you guys. If you're watching the recording, like even if you're watching live, just take some notes. Otherwise, if you're watching live, I encourage you to watch the recording later as well, because we're going to go through a bit of content here. So create your own economy. And the other thing marketing really does is it puts you in a position of ultimate proactivity. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you can create your own economy where you've got more supply than you, more demand for you than you can supply, so you've got an over demand for what you do. A lot of people at that point will go, oh my God, why would I want to do that? I can't go out and see everyone. You don't go out and see everyone, right? You have a deselection process, which is the sales process. Again, we'll touch on that later, which ensures that you cherry pick the best jobs. So what are the best jobs? The jobs in the best locations with the best people that aren't going to the banks. They're all cash and they've got lovely personalities. They're going to acquiesce to the way you do things, allow you to run your business in your terms, follow your contracts, and all of that is engineered and designed to give them the best possible result, right? So best practice processes, again, so that you optimize your profit, but not just because you want to make a profit, but because you want to give them the best possible result, because your relationship with people and your reputation in the market doesn't matter, all right? So that's really important. But it allows you to be optimally proactive. So let me give you an example of a builder that's done that. Second generation builder, custom homes, strong lead flow, all right? Lots of referrals, lots of trust. And the guy's dad did a lot of work, business development work. By the way, less than 10% of builders even do business development, even bother to listen to this. So if you're on the call, nice. You've actually got an entrepreneurial mind, and you probably don't want to just be running your business like it's the 80s or 90s when you know there's systems and technology and better ways of doing things and good sharing of information, right? So this guy's dad did that. Then he passed it on to him. He took it on. Then he improved on top of what his dad did. And the most successful second or third generation businesses, very difficult to compete with them because they've got a big database. And if they make sure that they've got a string of happy clients, which is what these guys did, then ultimately there's a lot of demand. And when you've got that type of demand, what you do from a front-end sales perspective is a one builder tender process. So you don't need to go into a tender process. You don't need to compete with other builders. In fact, these guys, their number one question when you call them, if you're a customer, is, are you speaking to any other builders? And if you say yes, they go, look, sorry, we can't help you. Okay, so they only do a one builder tender process from the beginning. They also have a design, in-house design, and then prelim agreements, cost analysis, and they can help with engineering, surveying, everything else, get all the preliminary works done, and then job delivery. But because they have 100 people wanting to build, but they're only going to build 20 a year, they can perfectly stagger those 20 builds, 20 starts. And if you contact them, they'll say to you, we're going to book you in for November, this date. We have an opening there in November or February. And then they know that next year they're doing 20 starts, perfectly staggered. In 2027, they're doing 20 starts, perfectly staggered. All of their systems and their team, both on site and in the office, is engineered and optimized for 20 starts, perfectly staggered. Okay, can you see that optimum productivity instead of feast and famine like a lot of you guys, and then you've got no starts and 5 all at once because you're waiting for some dickhead to get a piece of paper to you? All right, they control the preliminary process. They control the documentation, the quality of the documentation, and the turnaround time of the documentation. All right, and then when things start. And they're not controlling to be a prick about it. They're controlling it to optimize. Can you imagine the client experience? They can optimize not only efficiency, profitability, but the client experience. And we'll get to that later as well, because that's marketing, guys, the client experience. Remember that. Okay, so moving along. 3 most important metrics. We've touched on those already: profit, workflow, cash flow. And I mentioned marketing is a holy grail. The reason it's a holy grail is you can use it to optimize all 3 of those. All right, so I just gave a great example there where negotiate a tender. I bet you've done a negotiated tender before. You've had someone come to you and say, hey, you built my brother-in-law's house, so I'm going to work with you. He told me you're amazing, whatever it is. They're not going to anyone else. They just want to work with you. All right. that is a license to put your margin up because you're not going to have any competing quotes. And the reality is, a lot of guys, again, look at the stats, right? Something that drives me absolutely nuts is when people go, oh, but no one else is charging for quotes. No one else has got a 25 margin or 30 margin. Everyone else is at 10 or 15. Everyone else is going off a cliff, all right? Look at the numbers. So when I hear intelligent people that went to university and are supposedly high IQ, watching the masses, wanting to follow what 80% of people do, when they know full well there's empirical evidence to show that 80% are going off a freaking cliff, you've got to ask yourself what's going on, right? That's a lack of common sense. If you want to be successful, you don't look at the masses, all right? You don't look at the 80% that are going off a cliff. Look at the top 3% or 1%, that 1 in 100 guys that are very successful, that are using a 50% markup, and I guarantee you there's one in your area, and I also guarantee that they're getting most of the work, okay? Those are the guys you want to be following, and that's what I want to share with you guys. And if I'm getting fired up, it's because I care about you not going off that cliff, all right? Because I've seen too much of it, and it's completely unnecessary, all right? Okay, so hopefully that's not you, and this is just, water off a duck's back. But if it is, today's the day you make a decision to change all that. All right, so what marketing systems can you put in place? See, marketing is just you communicating to people what it is you do, okay? It's going, hey, this is us. We're putting our flag in the sand. We do renovations and extensions. We do first floor additions. We do shop fit outs. We've got guys that do events. Maybe you do luxury homes, Hampton homes, high performance homes, eco, whatever it is, okay? You do that, ideally, that specialty. And in fact, that's the first place for you to start, is to specialize. You want to dominate a certain specialty. The last thing you want to do is be a Me Too builder trying to do no job too big, too small, okay? You're never going to dominate. You're never going to get your margin up. Remember, all of this relates back to margin. So you want to specialize. Be the cardiologist, not the GP. All right? People will trust you more. And when they get the bill, they're going to go, yeah, but this guy's a specialist. Of course, he's going to be more expensive. If you're going to go see a specialist and he's cheaper than a GP, you've probably seen someone in the back streets of Thailand somewhere, right? You're in the wrong place. Okay, so don't be that guy. And very importantly, you want to fish where the fish are. Fish where there are fish, all right? So you go find out, like a fisherman, if you're going to go fish for a certain type of fish, where does that fish live? What sort of tackle, what bait, how do I get there? Do I need a boat? And then you go and pursue that type of fish, right? So you get an understanding of the type of person you want to work with based on your area of specialty. Most of you need to go back and look at your last 20, 30, 50, 100 jobs. Get an individual job report, a profit and loss on your job, if your profit and loss is even accurate. So the best way to do it, even if you're going to do it manually, it's worth the effort, right? If it takes you 10 hours manually to sit down and work out what were the costings on my job, how much money came in, what was the profit on that job, forgetting about overheads, vehicles, office, rent, marketing, forget about that. What was the profit on the job? That's your gross profit. Okay, and that's that gross profit margin I was talking about before. Convert that gross profit number into a percentage. What percentage of the job was that? Do that for your last 20 jobs at least. You'll find that that margin varies. Some are small, some are big. Look at the ones with the biggest margin. Is there an opportunity to do more of that type of work? Quick example, I had a couple start with me. Their turnover was 6 mil. By the way, 6 mil is the sweet spot for this $1 Million Builder. This is the book I wrote. If you guys haven't got a copy, I will send you a copy, right? I had a young guy in Brisbane say to me, nice clickbait recently. And it's not clickbait. We've got about 70 builders that are in that space. It'll take you about 3 years. So we've got 2 guys that started building. They're in their first 3 years, and they are projected to do $1 million. All right, $1 million, just to be clear, net profit after all expenses before tax. All right, in a 12-month period, whether calendar or financial year. All right, the sweet spot, 6 mil turnover. 25 gross margin, 25% of 6 mil is 1.5 with $500,000 overheads. You've got your 7 figures, okay? And your wage needs to be in there. Like if you're the general manager, it needs to be in the overheads. If you're doing supervision and project management, that's the cost of sale, okay? So back to my story. Had this couple start with me, 6 mil turnover, lost 25 grand. So no net profit. Yes, they maybe had some money left. They did some renos on their house and whatever else, which everyone does, but there was no net profit. There was no money in the bank. They lost it, right? So I was just explaining to them, like, shit, you guys, the volume's there. We just need to get the margin in the right place. So if you're starting out, you're in the perfect position to identify a margin first, chase the margin. Then once you've got the margin, then you pursue the volume. All right. That's really, really important. So we did the individual job reports, and some of their jobs, 2 or 3 jobs, had a 38 margin, which is where your margin should be. All right. Now, if you look at that 38 margin, let's just apply that to their turnover of 6 mil. That's 2.2 million gross profit. It's 2.250. They could have overheads of 1.2 million bucks a year. They're right, over 85 grand a month on wages, office, rent, vehicles, marketing, and still net $1 million bucks. All right, same turnover. All right, so you need to think about that yourself. And by the way, if you're working with me and your margin's at 25, you're near the bottom of the class. Okay, that's not a great margin to have, just to put it in perspective. So fish where the fish are. Chase the margin, then the revenue. Now, you can see on the screen, we've got a thing called the profit wheel. So marketing is one part of the business. There are many others. You need a strategy. So what's your game plan? What direction are you taking the business? We're not going into any of these right now. I could keep talking for like 2 weeks on this stuff, right? I've been doing it for like 18, 19 years. Capital, working capital. You need to be building up cash reserves all the time. You should be siphoning off money as it comes in, putting into separate cash accounts, offset accounts, index funds, a little bit of crypto. If you don't have crypto, you should be buying some crypto, even if it's $50 a week. I'm not financial advice, not financial advice to any lawyer watching, okay? That's my recommendation, all right? Just a little bit. If it comes off, and don't sell it until 2032, 33, okay? Just in case. Sales, have a sales process, job delivery, administration, your finance, obviously profit, cash flow. There's your business in 2 words. And your financial controls, your bookkeeping, which most of you, your bookkeepers need to be fired. And if your accountant's doing your bookkeeping, get rid of them. Your accountant should be doing your tax return. Your bookkeeper should be doing your numbers, all right? Very important, critical distinction there. Your systems, which is every part of your business, your team in the office on site, subbies, your leadership. Your business will never outgrow your leadership, all right? Most of you need to do more leadership and personal development to become the type of leader that other people are going to want to follow, because you get the people you deserve in your business. All right, so those two are really closely linked, leadership and team. All right, like I said, we haven't got time to go through all of these. Marketing, really the holy grail. It's going to give you that opportunity to crank the margin. And also, let's just talk about cash flow and payment schedules. If you've got clients that trust you, know, like, and trust you, they come to you, you take them through a prelim process, you demonstrate a lot of value, they are going to acquiesce to your contracts. You should all be using your own association contracts. Why those? Because they're the most used, the most tested, and very fair. But your payment schedule should have at least 15 payments in it. And this is explained to me, don't shoot the messenger. For everything I'm talking to you guys about today, don't shoot the messenger, right? I'm genuinely trying to help you here, because there's no excuse for any of you for not being in a 7-figure club, unless you don't want it, right? Maybe you just want to live a very humble existence, so you have no interest, all right? But really, you should be asking yourself, what profit did you make last year? If it was 200 grand, well, it's costing you 800,000 a year to not be in the 7-figure club, because you can get there. All right, so going back to the payment schedule, in your contract, in your association contract, whichever one you use, you should be able to use a Form 2 or Method 2 where you create your own payment schedule. And this is how the lawyer explained it to me. You take the deposit, whatever the maximum deposit is for you. Like here in New South Wales, it's 10%, for Resi. Other states, it's 5%, whatever it is. Take the maximum, put that deposit to one side, don't touch it, and then the progress payments should cash flow the job. You should not be financing your jobs. If you're financing your jobs, as in buying materials and paying for things before you get paid, you're going to risk trading insolvent. And guys, insolvency is illegal. It's illegal, right, in the Western world. So you have a duty of care to your clients to be financially sound as a builder. In fact, that's the best thing that you can be for your clients, all right? Have a look at Porter Davis. What happened to them? 1,700 jobs, over $1 billion. People were torching houses, trades were turning the tap, plugging the plumbing, and turning the taps on, right? Those people get stung. The guy that owned or founded the business, it's still worth 40 million bucks. All right, so you need to be financially sound and make sure that you protect your clients as if they were your family members. All right, so part of that is having a good margin, and so making sure that you identify the work with the best margin and then chase the volume, but also make sure your money comes in first before it goes out, because you can have good margin and still crash and burn with bad cash flow, right? And vice versa. You can have great cash flow but crash because you have margin. So we've got to get both those things in place. All right, so marketing gives you that, which is why it's so powerful. Rarely, though, marketing is about communicating, right? So it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And in this day and age, guys, the ability to communicate to thousands of people in a leveraged way has never been better and never been easier. And it's never been easier and better to create quality content, like through video, for example, right? So you can send out video content, which, by the way, it's the #1 obsession in the Western world, owning property, real estate, building a house, flipping houses, investment properties. Everyone wants to do it, right? Think about it. Everyone's all like, there's people that openly talk about it, and then there's those that don't, but on the inside they want it. So if you're a resi builder, what you do, people are obsessed about it. I'm going to say more so than golf or fishing or any of those sports, right? So if you, and you would no doubt know, there's guys that have cottoned onto this, right? There's certain builders that have gone, wow, so marketing is the holy grail. Shit, within marketing, video, and then if I showcase what I do, then people are going to be glued, lots of eyeballs, create my own economy. I can get 1,000 people wanting to build. I pick the best 10, crank the margin at 65% markup. I've seen 70% markup, okay? Most of you don't have the balls to do it. You know who probably would do it? If there's any wives on this call, I know a lot of wives often come to me with their husbands, you know, dragging them by the collar, going, I've had at least one couple, the wife said to me, this is uncomfortable, awkward situation. We're either doing this, we're either working with Kurt, or I'm divorcing you. And then there was the uncomfortable pregnant pause right there, right? So wives, if you've got bigger balls than your husband, which is often the case, and I say that from experience, I've got 4 girls, 4 daughters, all right, tough as nails. You need to get the margin up, okay? You need to crank that margin up big time, and one of the ways to do, obviously marketing is a way to do it, but within marketing, video, a lot of guys are too scared to get in front of the camera. But some of you, if you're extroverted and you're one of those people, you can't get the microphone out of your hand, it's a great opportunity. All right. When I was in the US a couple of years ago, they were talking about they had a list of the top 42 reality TV shows in construction, right? The top 42. And in the article, it said they cannot create enough content. So you obviously got all these channels like Netflix and every other app under the sun. They're just creating content hand over fist, but they cannot create enough. So you no doubt would know, look around you, there's some builders that are doing it. They've cottoned onto the fact, and they've essentially become a celebrity in their own space, and then systemized it, created marketing systems for getting lots of eyeballs, for capturing details, setting up autoresponder systems, and I'll explain that in a sec, which is, again, is selling in advance, all right? Being able to communicate with people, not only people who want to build now. Most of you are speaking to people that want to build now. They get you through your website, or they see a site sign, banner, whatever it is, vehicle signage, and then they contact you, and then you go and meet with them. There are many, many more people in your area who want to build next year, the year after, and are interested in what you're doing. They're watching you. So why not engage with them? Why not send them some very useful, valuable information via video or PDF or something else that they can start reading, and then stay in touch with them through autoresponder newsletter, even if it's once every 3 months. And if you've got a genre of home that people love, could be heritage style, Hampton homes, beach style, those glass boxes, whatever it is, there's a percentage, your target market of people that are going to be glued to it, and you can create a consistent flow of quality content. We had a guy down in Victoria, he had an email list of 4,000 people, just slowly built up his email list through his website, which is the #1 thing your website should do, by the way. It shouldn't just be an online brochure. It should be something that captures people's names and emails. You build a list, and then again, you stay in touch with them. But at one point, he had people contacting him every week. Hey, been following you for 18 months, been following you for 2 years. And it's negotiated tenders. So that is how you build sustainability into your business. That is how you offset that third area, workflow, where how do we know we're going to have work in 2027? Well, we keep building our social media following, and we keep building our email list, and it's always getting better. And the content that we put out there keeps getting better as well, because we keep doing bigger and better builds. That's how you client bank, and that's how you sustain or backstop. It's called backstopping your success, right? That's how, when guys get into the 7-figure club, right, they know that it's not a one-off. It's not a one-hit wonder. I'm going to make $1 million this year, and then, oh, shit, but what about next year? All right, well, you can replicate it for the next 10 years, no problem. In fact, you've got an operations manual where you can plug someone else in there, and then what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do if you're making $1 million a year? I've had 2 builders start with me recently that were already making $1 million a year. Most businesses don't make a profit, right? They earn a wage, not a profit, and that wage is reflected as their profit because their bookkeeper's a freaking moron, right? But they're happy to take that wage because they don't have a boss and they're working for themselves. They've got freedom, right? So that's how it's justified. Once you start making a net profit after your wage, a meaningful net profit, you're going to have a tax problem. Like if you live in the Western world, which all of you guys do, no doubt, unless you're in Nigeria watching this, you're going to have a major tax problem because the tax systems in the Western world are not engineered for profit. So how do you offset that profit? I mean, a lot of you are thinking, well, that's a nice problem to have. It is a nice problem to have, but it's still a problem. The way to offset that is you set up a development arm, right? You stop buying property and then building houses, and then having an asset that appreciates in value that also generates cash flow. And these days you can optimize it with Airbnb and everything else. For a lot of people, it's very exciting. In fact, there's a great example of it. I had it down here somewhere. I don't know if you guys have heard of Magnolia, Chip and Joanna, Magnolia, Waco, Texas. There's a couple that over in the US. I mean, they've got 5.4 million followers last time I checked on Instagram. They've pretty much converted the suburb or town that they live in, and they get 2.5 million people a year go there just to see the house flips that they've done. They also do food, and I don't know how many businesses they're billionaires now. But yeah, they're a great example of people that have that genuinely love what they do and have made a lot of money through that. But I'll talk more about that later, because that is interestingly enough what happens with every single one of our 7-figure club. We call them 7-figure club, right? People that net $1 million builders, is they find purpose and meaning behind what they're doing. So it's not so much the money that you make, but the person you become. So like I said before, you got to develop a certain amount of leadership to be able to build a team and to run a successful business. And then who you become as a leader becomes worth more than the money that you make. And then what you do with that money becomes more important and gives you more fulfillment than the money itself, all right? But the money's still important. And if you start out with a view to just make the money and then you get those other things later, then that's still fine. That's no problem, all right? And ultimately, you're going to end up helping people, which is great. All right, so systems and technologies make your marketing a lot easier. You want to have an opt-in on your website. And very importantly, going back to my previous comment about how, let's check how we're doing for time. Yeah, I've got plenty of time. Most of you, if we talk about getting like 10 leads a week or something, you're going to freak out. How am I going to service all those leads and go see everyone? You're not going to go see everyone. 80% of the people, 99% of the people on the planet are not relevant to what you do, especially if you're a specialist, okay? You want a bit like me with what I do. You want to be well known in a particular very narrow space, right? You don't necessarily want to go to the airport and be recognized by people, right? But you do want to be recognized when you go to a small community, like a meeting for people that are looking to, to do investment builds or whatever it is. Like, oh, you're that guy that does those homes or whatever. So with that is going to come the need for you to say no to people. So creating your own economy, more demand than you can supply. You need a process, always looking for a process solution, a process for how to say no to people. So you don't want to be rude. And this, by the way, most of you don't know how to do this, because, and in your defense, no one's taught you this. In fact, everything that I'm giving you a hard time about, not trying to give you a hard time, just trying to communicate this, right? It's not your fault, because who's teaching this? They don't teach this shit at school. Now, tell me if any one of you was taught anything about money at school, anything. Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Quadrant, Profit First, nothing. I know, because my kids go to private schools, zero, zilch being taught about that. But you need to have a process for saying no, which, by the way, is very easy. If you've got someone coming at you, and you'll know that you've optimized your marketing processes, by the way, when you say no to AAA grade blue chip clients. So think of the best client you've ever had, your dream client. You need an overflow of them and be saying no or referring on. That's how you say no. You refer on to someone else. You have a process solution. So if you've got too many people at the front door, you say to them, you pick the best ones, right? And then the rest, you say to them, you give them options. You don't just say no. Think of a company that you've contacted and they've just gone, no, can't help you. Uncomfortable. You rather say no, unfortunately, can't help you now, but we can in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months if you're prepared to wait. If you're not prepared to wait, we know someone who's perfect, another award-winning builder who's got capacity to help you now. There's your options, okay? So they can either not build or at all, they can wait, or they can move, they can get someone else. And then people are happy, they'll leave not pissed off, all right? So have a process for saying no. If someone's a total prick, a dickhead, you don't want to deal with them, then you refer them on to someone, just anyone, like maybe one of your competitors you don't like. Hey, I know someone's perfect. Or it's not just the personality. It's not that many. Most people are good, right? Maybe they've got beer money, champagne taste. All right, so they need a builder, a cheaper builder, right? There are builders that build cheap. Pass them on to one of them, okay? Just let them know you've got someone who's perfect. All right, so the process, which is your marketing system, is selling in advance. You're not selling shit, by the way. You're not trying to sell them anything. You're just showcasing what you do in your specialty and educating them, knowing full well that as you showcase, people are loving it. And a good example is EcoSpace, right? High performance homes, passive house, a cult-like following. So you just put out what you do, build process, handover, new clients, new materials, endless content. Just put it out there. And you can automate that process, by the way, the content creation process, get someone else to go out and do the filming, photographing, put it into a content library, editing, and then cutting it up and blasting it out on all your platforms. Insta, Facebook, maybe Houzz, if you guys are on Houzz, or YouTube. You don't have to be on everything, just maybe 4. And you educate them and you qualify them. Let them know. Show them who your ideal clients are. Show them the type of work that you do best. Let them know the benefits to them of you having a process for cost analysis, for doing an accurate cost analysis, charging for quotes, all right? Let them know that, unfortunately, most quotes on Worth paper they're written on, they come in at 1.5, 2 mil. There's your 3 quotes, all right? We have builders every day of the week coming in $300,000 more expensive than the second quote on $1 million job and getting it. $300,000, just to go back so you understand what I'm saying to you, more expensive on $1 million quote than the second most expensive quote, and they get it. Why do you think that is? Because they've created so much trust in the people that, and the other guy's probably turned up late with his ass hanging out, with his quotes all over the show, and he's got provisional sum, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, that the people don't trust him, and they're hearing horror stories out there, right? So you just got to present and do what I do, sell certainty. Give your clients certainty, and that gives them confidence, and they will then pay you. It's not about the money. Any issues you have around money is a money mindset thing that you need to address, okay? That's your problem, not your clients, 100% of the time. So you're educating them, and at the same time, you're qualifying them, because if they don't like it, in the same way, if you're listening to this and going, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, then it's not relevant, right? Marketing is about relevance. You've got to be as relevant as possible, which is why niching or specializing is so powerful. It gives you market penetration and cut through. You're highly relevant to a particular group of people, and point of difference. Okay. So when your A-grade client comes to you and experiences any of your content that you create, they've got to feel like you exist solely for them. That's ideally how you want to come across. Okay. And again, you can showcase what you do and then start sending out educational content around what's important. And if your quotes are accurate, by the way, binary variations consistently, I'd get one of your clients to talk about what it was like. When you've got a client who's extroverted and is happy to get in front of the camera, get them to talk about how, they came to you and they heard there's a lot of issues with, price changes and, bait and switch, get told this much, then find out on the job, it's not 800 grand, it's actually 1.4, but you find out halfway through the build and shit, you better find the money. Some people don't, all that sort of thing. If they know that you said a mill and it was a mill, binary variations of changes that they made, and then that becomes part of your reputation, people will pay you more. Okay, no problem. Payment schedules as well. You can explain to them that it's important for them that the payment schedule is cash flow positive, because if it's not and you're financing jobs and there's delays or there's payment issues, then that could blow the whole job out and result in not only delays on the job, but cost escalations for them. And then talk about examples. And then, but what we do is we do it this way. So it's front-end loaded, but legal. You obviously want to keep it legal. And do not listen to the banks. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because it'll just get me, I'll blow a fuse. But do not ever acquiesce to what the banks want you to do. Okay, they are psychopaths. Just Google Royal Commission, Google banks and drug cartels. Do that and go and see what's going on. Do not listen to them. All right. Moving on to social proof. Social proof is another thing. So what is that? So testimonials. The way to get a testimonial is not ask someone for a testimonial. It's like, think of the last time someone asked you for a testimonial. It's like a teacher asking you to write an essay at school, right? And you're like, unless that's what you enjoyed, it's not something you want to hear. But if someone asks you for your feedback, do you mind if I get your feedback? What's the one thing you enjoyed most? What's the one thing that impressed you most? That's a better question. What's the one thing that impressed you most? They'll probably have 3 or 4. Capture them. And then the second very important question, what's the one thing you feel we could have done better? Take that feedback, all right, from your clients. Qualify the feedback though. Very important. And then if you've got celebrity testimonials, even better. Someone who's well known, got a lot of credibility in your area, use it. If you've done any work for a celebrity, get a video. We've got guys that work for national sportsmen, cricketers, whatever it is. And, if it's good enough for them, then, people are, you get a transfer of trust. That's what happens with good quality testimonials. Okay, a lot of credibility. And if you get an opportunity to stay with video content and educating people, if you get an opportunity to get on TV for any of the shows, if there's I Love It or Listed, a Best Homes, Australia, New Zealand, whatever it is, take it, even if you've got to pay money. All right, they spend a lot of money on their video productions and you will get credibility with that. All right, so make sure you do. We've got a guy that he came on a coaching call with me and he was like, I got contacted by Foxtel to do this freaking some bloody show. I don't know. Love It or Listed. And I was like, fucking phone them now. Phone them right now. Get back on, tell them you want to do it. Long story short, he did it a couple of years. They absolutely loved him because he started managing the site to ensure that they got the shoots. They were doing 2-day shoots in 1 day. And he's one of the guys that charges $300 for a site visit now. It's just so many people, demand coming off the front end. So you can get that celebrity and credibility through doing something like that. And then have as an entry point through your sales process, a preliminary agreement and cost analysis offering with something like what Sam's talking about, right? If you've got a product like that woven in that helps people get clear on what it is that they're going to be building, the costings are done, plus everything else around that, pre-construction before you turn any soil. That's a great way to build trust. And also, if you guys, those of you that are doing bigger jobs, right, those big architectural builds, you can start speaking to people now. They're going to build in 2025. All right, so you can, from a workflow perspective, set yourself up for many, many years. And even better, if it's a negotiate a tender if there's no other builders competing in your space as well. So let's talk about mindset. I mentioned this before, like there's a money mindset thing. We all have a mindset for pretty much every area of our lives, like who you are as a father, husband, around money, around marketing, how you tell jokes, play golf, whatever it is. And you will never outperform your self-image. There's a great book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, I think it is. Sold 35 million copies. He was a plastic surgeon. He was fixed people's faces. And then he found that that didn't help. So the problem wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. All right. And he's got strategies and techniques that you can follow that change your self-image and your mindset. So if you never have money and your parents were like, money doesn't grow on trees, the root of all evil, all that, you need to fix that, because it's not going to change. You can get the best systems and processes in the world. You'll either self-sabotage or bring it back down. Tony Robbins talks about this stuff as well. I'm not a life coach, but I can tell you now, I see a lot of it, and it is important. And I also see it with marketing, because I'm too scared to market because I don't want to be seen as self-promoting and concerned about what other people think. That's BS, all right? If you are helping people and you authentically have something that delivers value, then all you need to do is let people know that this is what we do. That's it, all right? And if you know that you have your shit together with your processes, and that if someone builds with you, they're going to have a good experience, knowing full well that 80% of guys are going off a cliff, then you have an obligation to let people know that you exist. Because if you're hiding away and you're the best kept secret, then there will be people out there that are going to get stung and lose their life savings because you were too scared to let people know that you're a solution provider at what you do. And that's the mindset shift you want to have there. You're a solution provider. You're not trying to sell anything. I've never taught a builder to sell anything ever. You do not need sales skills. All you need to do is get clear on the solution that you offer and that you provide, and then let people know that you offer that solution, and let it be known clearly, all right? And if someone feels that you can help them, they will come to you. They will be drawn to you. A bit like what I'm doing now. I'm not going to try to sell you shit about. I'm not going to say, hey, you got to work with me. I don't need you to work with me. But if you see value in what I'm talking about, and you're like, hey, I want to get in the 7-figure club. I want to do some things. I want a development on. We've booked a venue to do a development workshop, a 1-day workshop on developments, because our 7-figure club builders want that. They all want to share notes on, hey, what do we do? How do we get the money? How do we joint venture with clients? What guys doing developments where the client's paying for the property and the build and giving them their half of 7%. So how do we do more of that? How do we get the documentation and the agreement signed up? Okay, then that's it. Like I can provide that solution, all right, if you're prepared to go down that path. But I'm not going to try and sell it to you, and neither do you. So ideally, do something that you enjoy doing, all right? So that's going back to the Magnolia couple, Chip and Joanna. They seem to, I mean, I don't know them. I've seen them come up on the radar, and I've seen that they seem to be very authentic. They're not trying to be anything that they're not. They just enjoy doing their house flips, and they were able to get a show to do it, and then they've incorporated food and everything, and they just created more and more businesses. And it's obviously, the US is a big market, and they've done exceptionally well. So if you can do that, if we're talking about optimization, that's a great example of optimization: passion, purpose, great product, high standards. And then ultimately you'll find yourself creating, not competing. That's the optimum outcome. You don't want to compete. You don't have to compete with anyone. Just get into a position where you're creating, and you can enjoy the process of, whether you just continue to service your clients and optimize your systems and then cap it at a certain point, or you scale. But if you're going to scale, again, you got to get the margin first before you scale. All right. You don't scale for margin. You get margin so that you can scale. Most people have it the wrong way around. Okay, so you create, you don't compete, enjoy the journey, and always looking to stack the value, add value in new and different ways. But as the owner of the business, I can tell you right now, if you're on the tools, if you're running jobs, you're never ever going to be able to optimize your business systems, processes, and results. It's not going to happen if you're trying to work in the business. You guys understand the importance of working on versus in your business. All right. Who's the guy? Michael Gerber. All right. His book, the E-Myth Revised. I don't know how many times, but that's the Bible for business development. You got to be able to put people and process in place so you as the business owner can step back, play more of a directional role, be more strategic in your thinking, be more proactive, can forecast ahead financially with your building your team, and also with your marketing and your clients. And like I mentioned before, and most people do not know this, right? This is game changer. The client experience in construction, the experience that your client has is marketing. How they experience you and the experience of the build. Most of you guys forget what it's like to build, right? To be the client and go through that build process. So most people, I know people that will never ever build again. The experience was so bad. I know people that if you offered to build for them for free, they would say no. That's how bad it was. I know people that halfway through a build just sold the property. And this is a guy who lived across the road from me. Just couldn't deal with it anymore. It was that painful. I know people that will maybe build, and then I know a company in particular that has a project management company that merged with a building company, and they have female project managers that serve as client liaisons that are up. They on top of everything. They have the schedule for the job, all the provisional sums, the costings, an off-site interior designer that helps with selections because most guys lose money because there's issues with variations. They don't have a variation process. And having that client liaison or that project manager who then communicates solely with the client, and then the guys on site never have to talk, the supervisor on site never has to talk to the client, right? And because they're females, and I had them work on a job in my house, they are able to communicate with a little more finesse. I don't care who you are, women generally are better at networking. They have a big circle of friends. Most guys don't. And they can be ball breakers and get shit done, all right? But more importantly, the guys are freed up to just do what they do, head down, ass up, and then she would just communicate. I literally heard about them. They were sending the overflow of referral work to 5 other builders in Sydney. That's how much overflow they were getting, all right? That is marketing right there. Most people are completely unaware that that scenario even exists. Be client-centric. Make sure that what you do is focused on your client. But in your defense, again, you don't have time. You are so busy trying to get everything done. There's not enough time to do everything you need to do. That how are you going to get to sit down and think through a process for developing an optimum client experience? You're probably not. All right. Recently, I went on a long weekend. We went snowboarding, awesome Airbnb, beautiful views of the mountain, lovely dinners, having a couple of beers, glass of champagne, all that stuff, like we all do. Like you work hard, even if you enjoy what you do. It's nice to just have a circuit break, just divorce yourself and not have to think about shit, right? The woman who is managing the Airbnb sends me a message. This is an example of fucking what not to do, right? She sends me a message the day before, like I'm in absolute heaven now because it's my last night. It's like a Saturday night. We're going to be leaving the next day. Well, I think it was Sunday. We're traveling the Monday. And I'm just in that, it's like a utopia, just relaxed, like I'm floating on a cloud, having a couple of drinks. I get a message from her, and she's saying, I hope you've enjoyed your stay. It was like bookended. The first opening comments, I hope you're enjoying your stay. And then the bottom, and I'll tell you what was in the middle. At the bottom, it was like, please travel safe home, right? And then she listed out, she said, before you leave, make sure that it wasn't like, it was pretty hard hitting, right? Take all the garbage out, do the dishes. She just listed out all the shit that I don't even do in my own home. And you're spending like over $1,000 a night for a place, and then there's a $600 service fee, and then they're making you do all the shit. That I was just like, that is not very client-centric, right? For those if you guys that know, that's like Jetstar and freaking Telstra, right? Not client-centric versus like Virgin, that actually stops and thinks, like, what do these people want? How do we give it to them? Like, you can see that the way they deal with you. Hey, use your phone until the loft door closes, or their Virgin Active gyms or whatever. They're all very client-centric. So be client-centric, okay? Don't be an asshole running your jobs and treating your clients like, just use a bit of decorum, but also understand what's going to make the experience a bit easier. I often get asked how much to spend on marketing. There is an amount that most seven-figure club builders spend. Maybe it's $40,000 to $70,000, but that's not important. What's more important is the return on investment of your marketing spend based on your area of specialty and understanding your client acquisition cost. How much do you need to spend to acquire a new client? What channels of marketing are working best for you? The best marketing strategist, if you're using a marketing company, which is a good idea, an intelligent thing to do, so you're outsourcing it to someone, you want to ask them, how many builders have you worked with and what specific results have you achieved with those builders in terms of leads and then conversion rates? And what's the definition of a lead? Like, a lead or inquiry is not just someone contacting you. We had a builder where their definition of a lead was a site visit. So they get a questionnaire, there's an audition call on the phone, they send the client information, they maybe even do a QBE, a quick building estimate beforehand, and then they turn up for the site visit with a prelim agreement solution packaged up for that particular client, right? That is their sales process. When that site visit's booked and the clients jump through multiple hoops, that gets classified as a lead. They were getting 5 of those a month. The marketing strategist got them up to 25. And the way they did that is they went and looked at their particular niche, their best competitors, their biggest competitors, and then they looked at how are these competitors getting leads. They went to their website, their social media, went in the back end, they used their algorithms, and then based on all of that, they developed a marketing strategy for the client, for this builder, and used that as a starting point, and then ran with Google ads, Facebook ads, and then were testing and measuring. Within a month, realized that the Facebook ads, one of the videos getting 75,000 views, the Google ads not so much, shut the Google ads down, took the budget for Google, put it on Facebook, and then optimized it, okay? That is a good marketing strategist that understands marketing and also works like a scientist at the back end, working out the ROI, and then that way you could spend $1 million a year on marketing. So it's not about the money. Like, we had a guy in the room once, we were doing this, how much do you spend on marketing? He's spending $45,000 a month on Google AdWords. So you probably think, yeah, that's a lot of money. He didn't start by spending 45 grand a month. It was 2 grand. And then he was getting so many contracts converted off that, then increased it in little increments of $1,000 or $2,000, and then ended up at 45, but then doing 200 or 300 builds a year. Okay. So it's about ROI more so than anything else. I'm going to stop talking in a sec because I have been going for a while, dominating the time on this webinar, yeah. But so last slide before we wrap up, I really want to emphasize, guys, the importance, especially for like you younger guys, going back to my original comment when we started this conversation, then 12 months from now, you're going to see people in a different space. So hopefully it's you that wakes up 12 months from now in a different place, because I have people come to me going, I'm sick and tired of every year's the same. It's just a repeat and a repeat and a repeat, and something's got to change, all right? So hopefully you don't turn up 12 months from now, same problems, okay? That just shows that you haven't done anything. That's a poor reflection of your leadership. You haven't made a decision to make some changes and seek out the right people to help you do things differently, right? But you will see someone do that. I can guarantee you, because now's the time. Now that we've come out of this pandemic, blah, blah, and now you can double down and accelerate, put the thrusters on and create daylight between yourself and your competitors, going to what we call a blue ocean. So the way to do that quickly and well is obviously implementing everything I've spoken about. But for you to do that when you're so busy, like, how are you going to do that? The best way to do it is like these mountain climbers, is use a Sherpa. You need people to help you. So access people who are specialist service providers that can get all the stuff done for you quickly and well. Obviously, I'm one of them, but you don't have to work with me. There's plenty of other coaches out there. If you want to, you can, and you don't know who I am, but you want to find out more about how we work with builders, you can email me info@builderscoach.com.au. Otherwise, I want to recommend a book a really good book by one of the best business coaches in the world, Dan Sullivan. Is a guy in Canada. Some of you may have heard of him. It's called Who Not How. Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. It's the #1 book that we had a closed door meeting with our $1 million builders, guys netting $1 million, or on track or close. That was the #1 book they recommended besides mine, was Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. So I highly recommend you have a look at that. And make sure that you access the good people. That's part of what we do as well in the Builders Coach communities, point you to what we call our genius network. So specialists, bookkeepers, accountants, marketing people. And you can have these guys work, including system and implementation people, helping you decide which job scheduling tool is the best system for you to use to optimize your particular job delivery situation, because everyone's different, every business is different, all right? So how do you get all that lined up and set up correctly while you focus on becoming a better leader and building a better team? But I can tell you now, you can do that very quickly and well in 12, 18 months, minimum 3 years at a walk. It's also important, guys, for your marketing to have at least 10 marketing strategies to generate 1 inquiry. Ideally 10 to 20 marketing strategies, both online and offline, and then integrate those systems together. And again, all of that is going to put you in the power seat where you can pick and choose your jobs. I think that's it, man. I'm going to stop there. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions about anything that I covered off, just let me know. Just have a look. I'm actually going to check the questions box here. There's nothing there in the chat. You guys are quiet. Hopefully it's because I've covered off everything you needed to hear and you've got plenty of value. Guys, I want to thank you all. For those of you that attended the live call, thank you so much. I understand how important and valuable your time is. And yeah, if you got any questions, just contact me or Sam direct. We'll send out our details in the recording that you all get. Have a fantastic rest of the day and weekend. Take care.